the area I grew up, they told me I wasn't going to be anything.
Driven to achieve and overcome, Evander Real Deal Holyfield willed himself to greatness.
He reminds me of a true gladiator, a true warrior.
Holyfield showed us that monsters do not exist.
Grounded in faith, Holyfield's spirituality strengthened and tested him.
His sexual immorality. That's probably the biggest crippling thing in his life.
Holyfield said to me, I'm going to show Mike Tyson my God's more powerful than his God.
All of these competitive juices that made him great now make him potentially a tragic figure.
What made Evander Holyfield such an amazing boxer is the fact that no matter who he fought, no matter what the challenge was, the fans were guaranteed an exciting fight.
Here comes Holyfield, doubling the left, the right, the left, unloading his arsenal of punches.
You didn't sit down without chills for 1 second when Evander was fighting.
He was a pit bull in the ring. His aggressiveness, his relentlessness were all parts of the package that Evander Holyfield brought in the ring.
Almost no fighter of the last 30 years has had as complete an offensive arsenal as Evander Holyfield.
One of the great things about Evander, he has a chin of stone. You can hit him with a sledgehammer. He's not going down that easy.
When you hit him, you touched the very heart and soul of Evander. Holyfield's pleasure was getting down and saying, okay, I can take yours, can you take mine now?
Most fighters try to camouflage their fear. He had none.
He reminds me of a true gladiator, a true warrior, blood, sweat, and tears. That's Evander Holyfield.
Holyfield in trouble. Hanging on for his life.
Bo beat the hell out of Holyfield. He beat the life out of him, and another life jumped back in him. I'm like, there's got to be a ghost in this building somewhere. How's that man still standing up?
Holyfield was one punch away at a couple different times from going down, and now he comes back with a big uppercut, and Bo is in some trouble.
The second fight with Mike Tyson, I don't think I've ever seen anything more courageous than Evander Holyfield with a half-moon shaped thing out of his ear, the blood running down his face, yelling at his corner, give me the mouthpiece, I'm going to knock him out.
When he came back to fight Ray Mercer and got cut at one point in that fight, when the doctor came in and said, you know, are you okay? Do you want to continue? Evander gave him a look like, are you out of your mind? Do you know? And as if to say, do you know who you're talking to?
He was a black Rocky Balboa. He was the guy that you could pull for because you knew that he had all these different challenges, all these different issues to overcome, and he did it time and time again.
Major among those challenges was the difference between Holyfield and his larger opponents in an era when many pundits of the sweet science had lost their sense of proportion, when bigger was often considered better. He is the only heavyweight to have won the title 4 times.
Evander Holyfield was the little big man who could. Everybody felt he wasn't quite good enough, he wasn't quite big enough, he wasn't quite strong enough, and that was the fuel that drove his engine.
Let them say what they want about him being too small. We knew one thing: they could never take his heart away from him. And I think that was the biggest asset he had, his heart.
His strength, I think, came from a different place. And part of the reason why we underestimated him is because we couldn't see that place. And that was really the soul of a great fighter and a person who knew what he wanted out of life. He refused to cave into our expectations of him.
Holyfield challenged our view of what a heavyweight was in many ways. First of all, he really wasn't a knockout fighter. And then he brought this demeanor that was the antithesis of Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson talked about crushing your brain, and, well, Evander was just gonna pray for you and just try to beat you and move on.
If you hit that, I'm gonna step this way, then I'm gonna come back. And you like that, but you got it. And I catch you that way.
There's no pretense. There's nothing phony about him. A guy who walks around without an entourage. He is always going to be the guy who grew up in Atlanta with nothing and trying to become something.
I think Evander, no matter how many millions he has made, still believes he's going to go to the refrigerator and find it empty. And that paranoia has driven a lot of what he's accomplished in life.
Here's a guy, got enough money to air condition hell. You know, he can go to Neiman Marcus, Burberry's, wherever he wanted to shop at. This guy goes to Kmart to shop.
Evander Holyfield was a little bit of a paradox. He had this huge house. It's like the Coliseum of Atlanta, but he was also very humble.
I had asked him, why are you building such a huge joint? He said, well, you know, the Rockefellers got their spot, Elvis got his spot. I want to build something for my family.
Certainly Evander's home, I think, was, in a sense, built as a monument unto himself. While he appeared to be very humble, Evander probably also has the largest ego of any athlete I've ever met. And I don't say that in a derogatory way. For Evander Holyfield, that is what drives him. He wants to go where people don't think he can go as an athlete and as a person.
If, God forbid, you went bowling with him, he would not let you leave if you won a game. If you won a game, he would have to bowl another one and beat you and remind you who won.
He's on this show, Dancing with the Stars, and he finally gets eliminated. I said, well, did you have fun? No, I lost. And he was, I'm telling you, as distraught and disheartened as I'd ever seen him after a fight, ever.
One of Evander's friends once told me that he perceives himself as Mr. Perfect, and when he's unable to sustain that self-image, he gets down on himself. And maybe that perfectionism is what drove him to become heavyweight champion in the face of all odds.
He got jerked out of a gold medal. Everybody on God's green earth knows that he won that fight.
The youngest of 9, Evander Holyfield, was just 4 when his mother, Annie, relocated her family from rural Alabama to the Summerhill section of Atlanta in 1967.
Evander's mother was a tremendous influence in his life. A single mom, working very hard, and I think he saw that as example. You can get what you want if you're willing to put the work in.
I truly believe all that I am today is because of my mother, how she inspired me, how she stayed on me, how she just structured me. My mother was my hero.
Growing up, he always said that if he ever did something, his mom would bust him up. He realized that his mom wanted him to follow a straight and narrow path.
Only thing that I wanted to do is make my mama happy. I'm the one that got 3 whoopings a day. I was always in trouble. I was a classroom clown. I wanted some attention. I wanted to be loved, but, you know, but I was going about the wrong way to do it.
Not having known his natural father until he was 21, Holyfield sought paternal recognition on Atlanta's playing fields.
My whole life I was inspired by men because my daddy wasn't there. So when I went out and played sports, I played so hard for the coaches because I wanted them to pat me on my back.
The Warren Memorial Boys Club provided an opportunity for the athletic Holyfield to gain approval and a sense of purpose. At age 8, the boy who harbored dreams of playing for the Atlanta Falcons became seduced by another sport.
The thing that sort of enthralled him was the speed bag, the sound of the speed bag.
He asked the coach there, Carter Morgan, if he could
hit the speed bag, and coach told him that was only for kids who were on the boxing team, and if he wanted to hit it, he could join the boxing team.
Carter Morgan was a father figure. He was the type of man that every child would want in their life in terms of giving you good advice, but yet loving you the way a man should love, a son.
In the area I grew up, they told me I wasn't going to be anything. The only person that ever told me that I could really be something was my mama. And the second person was that white man, Carter Morgan.
Carter Morgan said to him, "One day, son, you're going to be a champion." And from that day on, that stayed with him. And that little engine that could, called Evander Holyfield, went on that one-track mind to become a champion.
Undefeated in his first 3 years in the ring, Holyfield fought a tough kid named Cecil Collins and suffered his first loss. When the 11-year-old told his mother his boxing career was over, she had a powerful response.
She told him in no uncertain terms that he's not quitting the boxing team, and that she didn't raise a quitter, and that if he wants to stop boxing, he can stop, but he's going to stop after he beats Cecil Collins or never.
And wouldn't you know it, he had a second fight with Cecil Collins. And he lost again. And he went home and said, "I quit." And she said, "You won't quit."
A few months later, he fought that same young man again, and he beat him. And he went running home to tell his mom, and she looked at him, she said, "Now you can quit." And he's like, "I don't want to quit."
He fought on, learning his craft and piling up victories. When he was 16, Holyfield lost his coach and father figure, Carter Morgan, to emphysema. Then, after winning a silver medal at the 1983 Pan Am Games, Holyfield twice defeated world amateur champion Ricky Womack to earn a spot on the 1984 U.S. Olympic team.
When the Olympics began, he was knocking out everybody he fought. Bang, bang, bang. 3 straight knockouts.
In the semifinals, Holyfield faced Kevin Barry of New Zealand.
Look at Holyfield. He's ready. He's got the opponent hurt again. He's ready to put him away.
Comes a moment right before the bell of the second round, and he clocks Barry and knocks him out.
Oh, there it goes. You saw that. It was inevitable. Now, wait a minute.
Now, the Yugoslav referee does an interesting thing. He waves Holyfield over to the corner. He counts out Barry, knockout. He then turns to Holyfield and disqualifies him for having hit on a voice signal stop.
He is going to disqualify Evander Holyfield.
If you throw in a punch and the referee say break at the same time, you can't stop.
He got jerked out of a gold medal. I mean, everybody on God's green earth realized, and knows that he won that fight.
Look at Holyfield's face. What an untoward development.
After he was disqualified, I didn't know exactly how he would react. He took it with such grace and class that it was almost unbelievable. That's when I marked him as somebody special.
The Yugoslavian fighter who actually got the benefit of this bizarre decision to disqualify Holyfield simply turned to Holyfield, who was standing several inches below him on the bronze medal stand, and asked him to come up with him on the top platform. It's certainly one of the great Olympic moments in modern times.
In an ironic way, that disqualification made everybody notice who Evander Holyfield was. And it really, in the long run, helped create Evander's turning pro and the mystique around him.
Holyfield once told me that he felt like Charlie Brown, and by that he meant it was always raining on him. I think Evander kind of felt, why is everybody picking on me?
I don't think the boxing community at large has given Evander enough credit for the total package that he brought to the ring. I don't think he's been respected as a boxer who defined his time.
3 months after the 1984 Olympics, Evander Holyfield turned pro and made an immediate impact in the cruiserweight division.